Good afternoon to you all. It's a great pleasure to be here. I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me to this global symposium. I've been asked to be here representing the international network. As you might already know, it has already been explained, it's an initiative that was launched about 20 years ago in Canada, and it was presented in Rio 92, and it was expanded. It has been expanded, and we have more than 50 model forests in different continents, and we have in national networks, and it is a very strong concept where my institution, because I work for the Cartier, which has its headquarters in Costa Rica, and is very much present in the Latin American countries, and has a huge potential in order to present the work we are carrying out. The work carried out by Cartier is postgraduate and training in agriculture, agroforestry, and we also have a function. We have a function for doctorate, but also the technical cooperation of the countries members of the Cartier. The concept of model forests with a territorial model and enables us to gather all these issues and work with local stakeholders to have an impact in this field. Hodney and previous speakers have said we cannot predict future, but we can learn from the past about which are the principles that could be applied in the future. And I think this is very much important. There are many initiatives we have heard talking about the landscape restoration, but for many years we have dealt with watershed management, and there is a huge interest for the territorial approaches, and I think we could extract these principles from that. And I think there is an important opportunity when we talk about the first question: what is the future for the landscape level and ecosystemic approaches? We have seen lately a growing interest, and it has been quite clear. And I had the opportunity to participate in Cancun in the Day of the Forest last September, and I saw the great interest, this management of this trade-off, and also this enhancement of synergies in order to reach objectives and goals for mitigation and reduction of deforestation. I'm an external advisor for the World Bank, and I was greatly surprised last January when we met in Washington, when I heard from the officials of the World Bank their will to approach this landscape level. So in South America, we have launched a strategy, a forest strategy at the local level and landscape level, and I think that we have a great opportunity currently, a huge range of opportunities we have to take on board. Nevertheless, it's more a criticism because I am forest official, and sometimes we do not go to the territory, we don't go to the field. In Spanish, we say often, because we focus on the tree, we do not see the forest, and sometimes when we see the forest, we're not able to see the landscape or the territory that is behind this forest. I think we have to have this more comprehensive approach of the territory and landscape. There are crops, and there are many social elements that have to be taken on board. And I love very much the slides of Carlos when we talk about landscape management is to optimize the capacity of each one of the territories to produce the goods and services of the land. So, to talk about the going from the stand to the forest, I think we have to take into account the stand, which is a unit. And we also have to manage the landscape, but also the national level and the international level. But still, we have to get to grips with this landscape level. And from my personal experience, I think we have to, first of all, see what is our starting point. Because if I'm not wrong, the great majority of those who have been studied biophysics, when we have studied the watershed management, we tend to solve it from a very technological viewpoint, as if the watershed was a technological building, for example. Or I've learned that each territory is first of all a social construction. So first of all, we have to see it as a social construction, and in that way we will be able to give priority to the institutional and social processes that will give a shape to these landscapes. If we start from this premise, which is the adaptive management, territory can be rebuilt. Why? If we launch a negotiation process with all the stakeholders and with also the national agents, by the means of these processes we can just rebuild the territory and landscape, and with the cooperation and including different elements such as economic elements, financial elements to finance the actions, we could think about the fact that the territory landscape will be able to be restored. And I would like to, at this stage, underline the fact that the greatest contribution of this forest is this, through this directory, this process of planning and collaboration among the different stakeholders. This learning, we are applying it to the co-management of watersheds, but it is also valid for management of a stand. And when I talked with a colleague in Honduras, they had adapted the co-managing process, and they use it now to manage public health issues, education, so it can be applied quite widely. And I think it is essential that in all these processes there should be an empowerment of the local agents, local stakeholders, to get to all these agreements in each one of the levels. And I like to say that the agreements have to have the participation of everyone, and this is could be for it to be a global management, and the actions that would take into account all the stakeholders. I think I'm quite based because when I look for a conceptual model, when I saw the model forest, I saw a splendid platform to carry out actions. But how can we communicate something that is so strong? The model forest approach or any other kind of approach regarding landscape. I need the model forest as a platform, but also I need the conceptual framework that is going to be telling me how we can do it. I would like to thank Shimer because he presented it in a quite simple way. The active management is the software and the model forest is the hardware. So I think that everybody is aware of how it is made, a PC, a computer, and I think it is a very visual way of presenting it. This will enable us to train professionals and experts, and I think we will have to think about training other professionals, and not only those kind of professionals, but other professionals that will ease other processes with other disciplines. Something that has been, for me, quite interesting is that when we look at the priorities of the national policies in matters of collaboration, forestry is not a priority. So it's important to talk about governance and democracy, but sometimes forests are let aside. When we work with these approaches of having representative platforms, and we are talking about an important growth of democracy. In Nicaragua, it was really surprising to say that some neighbors in the north of Nicaragua, they organized a referendum to see what was happening with the cutting and burning of the trees, and the results of this referendum led the local government to pass a rule to take on board this situation. Before they didn't have a way of talking and of expressing their rights, but then they did through this new rule that was enacted. So it is important to reinforce this interface between the science and the policy. We have had to now these sectors have been very much separated. The landscape and the model forest could become this platform that is going to build bridges between those sectors that have been divided in the past. We have heard about the public states and the public parties, and the public and the private have been for a long time separated. And so I think that these landscapes are a way of bringing closer the scientists and the policymakers and all the stakeholders, and about the collaboration possibilities and alliances and partnerships. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this Congress, because we have had the presentation of a lot of viewpoints, but there are many other experiences. I talked about the watershed management in Central America, and some of the experiences were presented yesterday, but what is important is the principles that are applied in this watershed management. I think that to have the strongest impact, we have to name each one of the approaches, otherwise we're going to lead to a confusion, and we will lose the opportunities that are emerging in order to promote the landscape approaches. As regards the RED Plus issue, and I think that there are great opportunities to promote RED Plus at local level. This governance issue can be tackled from a landscape level, but I think we still have to think a lot about it and communicate it in a more efficient way. And to close my speech, and to finish with the last question, how to have an impact on the policy making. I have been thinking about the experience we have had with the sustainable management more or less 20 years ago, with a report that No Timber Without Trees. There was a quite critical vision about the sustainable management of forests, and I think in 1991 the Tropical Wood Organization launches a report about and a certain number of indicators about the sustainable growing of tropical woods and trees, and FAO participated, and in Montreal we also talked about these issues, and in order to make it possible to have criteria and to have an idea of what is the sustainable forestry. And now we've got a certain number of forest certification and the results of the soft policies and hard policies. But this has been a process that can be reviewed and revisited, but we can maybe revisit it from its landscape level in order to better communicate about a good landscape level management of forests. We also have to think about something that would be to launch an initiative with all of you, and in order to promote at world level the landscape level management, and it could be a good role for the CPF, but I should say that it shouldn't be exclusive for the members of the CPF, otherwise it has to be quite an inclusive process, because we have many organizations and bodies that are here, and it would be nice to have a global initiative. It is also important, and we talked about it yesterday, we have to better communicate what we are doing, to better communicate with the decision makers. I think that we have progressed quite a lot. I think in UFOR we have a task force about forestry, and I think we have to think about it again, to say how do we work and how we communicate with the mass media to have a greatest impact in the decision makers, and I think we are in my country, we are more active in as regards publications on the newspapers and magazines to get through to a greater number of people. Yeah. I think I'm done, but I would like to insist nevertheless on the fact that we have to give sufficient space to the agents and stakeholders, and those are the ones who will have to define the actions and the roles of the landscape level management. Thank you very much.